Alright, I know I'm late, but your boy finally got the opportunity to play C for the first time. This is a character I've been super excited to trying out as they are an O-Ball squad member, so you guys already know I was already ready to deep dive and see what this character had to offer. And let's just say, Seed is going to be introducing a new dynamic that no other attacker is offering currently right now, and I think a lot of you guys are probably going to end up liking this a lot. So I'm going to provide you guys my first impressions on Seed by going over how they play while also talking about how I feel about their gameplay and game plan. We're also going to be going over different teams for you to run with them, as well as talking about how strong they feel and offering some alternatives for you guys to use just in case you don't have some of those units on your account. And then finally, we're going to end off the video by providing you guys my final thoughts, as well as if you should or shouldn't pull for Seed. There's a lot to cover within this video, and I'm not going to hold you guys up any longer. So without further ado, let's get into how to play Seed and providing you guys my overall feelings on their gameplay style. When playing our new electric attack agent Seed for the first time, I immediately knew that this character was really strong and rewarding to play due to them synergizing really well with most attackers in the game, requiring you to manage resources well for your team and mastering quick swap in order to optimize their damage. Now, when hearing synergizing with attackers, I know that automatically sounds completely different than to anything that we've experienced with a lot of attack teams in the past, and this is because the great dynamic that Seed offers allows them to synergize with attackers through their partnering system known as Vanguard. A unit becomes Seed's Vanguard by being an attack unit with the highest attack on their team, granting them buffs whenever either unit performs an EX special attack. When the Vanguard uses their EX special, Seed enters the onslaught state, which increases their attack by 1000 and crit damage by 30%. When Seed uses their EX special, the Vanguard enters the direct strike state, granting them the same exact buff. Now, when both units have onslaught and direct strike active, a new effect known as Besiege is triggered, further increasing all damage dealt for both units by 25%. This buff is insane and makes the dynamic with Seed and their fellow attacker really good. This is because if you actually look at the buffs that they're offering, this makes Seed's level of buffs comparable to the likes of Astra, one of our best support agents in the game. And because of this, this not only makes Seed a powerhouse, but their attacker and their team as a whole a powerhouse in general. I love this so much about this character and the team comps that they offer, because it actually makes dual DPS a viable comp to run in comparison to a lot of our traditional teams we've been running with attackers for some time now. Now, I know we tried this form of dynamic when like the likes of Evelyn and Hugo came out, and we tried to pair that with Lighter to run a dual DPS comp there, but we already know that that was not as good or nowhere near as good as what Seed is offering right now. So I love the fact that this actually makes this comp and this style of comp viable with so many different attackers in the game, and I can't wait to actually see how a lot of you guys and a lot of other people are going to be coming up with different team structures that I think some of us, even creators, have missed out when trying them out during the beta servers. Now, to add on to this dynamic, for every point of energy that is consumed when both units are active characters on the field, when these buffs are active, Seed recovers 0.5 points of steel charge, which is the resource used for Seed's enhanced basic attacks. Definitely keep this in mind, because the more steel charge you have, the more DPS Seed will be able to deal. Seed's additional ability also further improves the dynamic between them and their Vanguard. With another attackers on your team, Seed restores 2 energy to the Vanguard every time they deal damage as an active character. Seed's enhanced basics 1 and 2 plus their ultimate also deals 30% increased damage and ignores 25% of their enemy's electric resistance. So overall, when it comes to Seed's team dynamic, their goal is to provide a substantial damage buff and restore energy for their Vanguard, so that when running a dual DPS comp, it doesn't feel like a poor alternative to our traditional teams. I think this is great, and it makes them actually feel really strong. But I will say, how this is implemented, it does feel like there still is a bit missing from this new dual DPS comp. And I think this is because a lot of attackers in the game currently right now haven't been designed to actually work this way. I think that this will end up actually feeling much better with the likes of a unit like Orphe coming in on the second half of 2.2. This is because Orphe is designed to be an off-field attack agent that's going to allow Seed to perform their rotations pretty comfortably and be able to do substantial damage without really having to switch into them too often. Now, this doesn't mean that pairing Seed with all of the current attackers in the games feel poor, because it doesn't, and you'll definitely be able to see that once we get into the team section of the game. I just think that in the future, when Seed is going to be looking for some of their best in slot teammates, and when new units are going to be further advancing this form of dual DPS play for attackers, I think a lot of them are going to end up being more in line with how Orphe is operating, or we might see some improvements from our older attack units that kind of fits this gameplay style a bit more. Which, speaking of gameplay style, when it comes to managing Seed's resources and understanding how quick swapping works with them, I believe this is where the fun of the character truly lies. This is because Seed's damage is centered around their enhanced basic attacks, which is fueled by the steel charge resource we mentioned mentioned earlier. The great thing about this is that since the skill is tied to a unique resource, Seed is able to utilize them in any part of their kit while also being pretty meter efficient. This means after dodge counters, assist follow-ups, their EX special, and even ultimate, Seed can immediately go into their enhanced basic attacks to deal amazing damage while opening up quick swap opportunities for any of their agents or their team. So when trying to perform this, ideally what you want to do is perform a basic attack or an EX special to build Steel Charge with Seed. Once this is ready, you want to be holding your basic attack to begin the first part of his enhanced basic with the charge punch, and then once you see Seed start performing a backdash, like he's leaning back, rolling away, you want to then quick swap into your partner because he'll complete the animation, and then you'll be able to start beginning your rotation and start dealing some damage. But this is where the gameplay of Seed truly lies, where how a lot of your team is going to be able to do a lot of damage really fast, pretty quickly, and efficiently, which I love so much about it. Quick swapping is just so cool in Zenless, and I'm happy that they finally brought this type of play style for attackers because it makes running teams with Seed feel very satisfying while bringing really strong results. All in all though, truthfully, piloting Seed is pretty straightforward. They're primarily used as an on-fielder to deal massive damage with their enhanced basics while building up their Steel Charge resource through their basic attacks, EX special, and ultimate. This is perfect because how they apply their buffs for their Vanguard is with their EX special, allowing them to knock out two birds with one stone. Once resources are spent, quick swapping between Seed's enhanced basic is your optimal play to perform your other units' rotations, whether it be your other attacker or support. If it's your attacker though, be sure to burn your EX special to grant Seed their buff while helping them build Steel Charge off field. Understanding this allows you to grasp the synergy that Seed has with basically every attack unit in the game, making it really easy to pair them with other units. But I can't lie, this also makes their team compositions feel limited in a way. Like I mentioned before, Seed's buff and additional ability requires one of the units in their squad to be an attack agent, which means no matter what, Seed has to run a dual DPS comp in order for them to be a functioning agent. Now, some of you might think I'm being dramatic, but if you actually look at the full details of their core skill and additional ability, literally nothing about it works if you replace their attacker with any other class in the game. This directly makes Seed's teams feel limiting while also expansive at the same time. It's weird, but honestly, I'm kind of mixed on it because we're sacrificing flexibility and creativity in order for this team comp to be granted astral level buffs. And I don't know if that's overall worth it or in the long run makes this dynamic interesting enough. Now, don't get me wrong, the buffs are really good and they are going to be really great. But in comparison to having like an actual astral on your team, it just limits the dynamic too much that I feel as if that maybe it might get old in the future. But who knows? As of right now, dual DPS is a lot of fun with Seed and I'm liking it a lot and it is really strong. But hopefully when introducing this dynamic a bit more for maybe a different attack agent in the future, we can have a bigger and better expansion on the idea of this down the line. While we're technically talking about cons for Seed though, I also want to mention that when playing them for the first time, they definitely feel a bit clunky and weird to play. This is mostly due to their long animations and different camera perspectives, obscuring the screen, making them feel weighted and kind of awkward to play at times, but it's something that you can get used to. It kind of reminds me of Trigger when playing them for the first time and everything was just going crazy on screen and making it hard to keep up. But once you got used to it, it was kind of just there. It wasn't really a problem anymore. I think Seed is in a similar ballpark there, but I think there is a aspect about them that some players just might not end up liking at all anyway. But I do think they're really fun. They're just going to be an acquired taste type of unit that everyone's just not going to enjoy, even with their overall strength being so strong, at least in my opinion. Enough of the general talk with Seed though, I want to talk about some teams that I think are pretty strong, a lot of fun to play, and truly showcases the strength of Seed. Alright, like I stated before, when building a team for Seed, you need to have at least one attacker a part of the squad in order to have their core skill and additional ability activated. This makes team building pretty straightforward for Seed, but also opens up some creativity for character builds, especially for our attackers. Since Seed is required to have an attacker in their team, this means we can build these units like traditional DPS to provide a true dual DPS experience, or we can build them like batteries to create a unique hypercarry comp specifically for Seed. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, keep this in mind. Now, after a lot of testing rotation and different team builds, here are some of the teams that I found a lot of fun and very strong with Seed. To start, we have Seed Trigger Sammy. This is because this team allows Sammy to play more like a burst style unit while having a bit of room to still play a little bit of her heavy on-field gameplay style due to being pretty efficient at building her old silver marks while also receiving those massive buffs from Seed. The damage from this team is also pretty massive, currently making it Seed's best in slot team at the moment. I think this is mostly due to the buffs I mentioned earlier being applied to Sammy, which allows her to still provide a significant amount of DPS even though she she has to share field time with Seed. This team also is very flexible with its team comps, as you're able to substitute Trigger for other units like Astra, Nicole, Poker, and even Jafufu, depending on the content at hand with Jafufu though. When having Astra on the team, this will net you similar to better scores as Trigger due to their massive buffs, while Nicole and Jafufu shouldn't be too far behind. Poker will be noticeably worse though in my opinion, but she will definitely still get the job done, making her a great unit to still have. Also for this team, you can substitute Sambi for Soldier 11 and run the same exact team comps. This is because ideally you would be performing pretty similar rotations with Soldier 11, and they both tend to like the same stunners and supports on their teams, besides Soldier 11 liking Lighter the most. Lighter can be used for this team for Soldier as well, but keep in mind he's only going to be buffing Soldier 11's damage, but he does offer the team that extended stun window, which is nice for Soldier and Seed. For the next team, we have Seed, Juyeon, and Astra. This team is the true definition of burst DPS, as the idea behind this team is to constantly quick swap between Seed and Juyeon during their extended animations to constantly deal damage. It's currently my favorite team to play out of all the Seed team comps, and I think it's because of how active the team is and great it feels in and out of stun windows. The damage that this team deals also really good, as both Seed and Juyeon are receiving drastic damage increases from the attack and crit damage buff that Seed and Astra both provides. It actually competes pretty well with Sambi's team too, which means it's also pretty close to being one of Seed's best teams in the game right now. Juyeon is also able to fill that role of a battery DPS like I mentioned before. This is because Jué is a unit that loves to be paired with Quick Assist, as it allows her to constantly build ammo, which means she synergizes extremely well with Astra like we've always known, and Astral Voice, giving you the opportunity to equip Astra with the new Moonlight Lullaby set and Jué with the Astral Voice set. Doing so grants this team a total of a 62 damage dealt increase from the two sets and Astra's buff. You can also have Jué equipped with a 2-piece Swing Jazz and Energy Regen on slot 6 with this build, because the buffs from both Seed and Astra guarantees Jué an additional 2,200 attack and 55% crit damage, making it really easy for her to still be a hard-hitting DPS. I love this whole build idea, and it can be applied to a lot of other targets as well, but I feel like it works really nice with Juyeon, and I've noticed that the performance that this team overall has because of it is still really good in a lot of different forms of content. Finally, for this team, the third slot has a bit of flexibility too, as we can switch out Astra for units like Nicole and Qingyi. This is because Jué works really well with Quick Assist, and Nicole's ability to provide them her defense debuff and her ether damage buff makes her perfect for this team. Qingyi is also very good here, as her ability to quick swap between Seed to build stun and apply her stun damage multiply debuff works out pretty well. I will say though, the performance for these alternatives are slightly worse, but they're still pretty good. Also, when running these teams, you more than likely are going to be running the battery style DPS for Juyeon. You're just going to give her the regular DPS build that you normally would for her. Finally, for my last team, I tried Seed Trigger Haru. This team is how you play baby mode Haramasa, as I would like to call it, because you only meet or don't with him during stun windows. Outside of stun, you're only piloting Seed and switching in Trigger to build stun and applying King of Summit buff, making this team extremely easy to play. Now, it's not Seed's best team, but apparently it's going to be probably one of Haru's best, especially if you optimize his rotations during stun windows, which honestly I suck at. But even still, this team does great damage and is really easy to pilot, so I definitely highly suggest it if you're looking for especially a full electric team comp to run. It also has great flexibility due to you being able to sub Trigger out with units like Qingyi, Nicole, and even Ambi. You can do Astra as well, but it will require you to understand how to play Haramasa a bit more in my opinion, so I don't directly suggest that for people who aren't good with Haru, but if you are a Haru master, of course, go ahead and go forward. I love this team a lot though. I actually think I want to invest some more time into it once I get Seed on live server, because I want to see if I can optimize Haru to see the peak performance that this team can offer. But like I mentioned before, even without it, it's still performing really well right now. But those are all the teams that I've tested. I did hear that Seed, Astra, and Evelyn is a really strong team as well and has really good synergy, but I didn't get a chance to actually look into it myself. Quite a few other creators did though, so definitely check them out if you want to learn more about that comp specifically. From what you can tell though, Seed has a lot of options for units that you can run with, and it even expands beyond this. Free-to-play units like Billy, Anton, and Korn have great synergy with Seed as well, which means you can make pretty solid budget teams that will be effective with them, which is great to see for any of our DPS in the game. I wish I did have a little more time to venture into those teams and actually showcase those to you guys, but overall the comps are going to be pretty similar to one another, which you could easily see with the teams are already suggested. I was already saying a lot of the same supports and stunners within the comps anyway, so you guys should have a rough idea on how it's overall going to work for those teams. Enough of talking about teams though, let's finally end off the video with talking about Seed, if they're worth pulling, while also providing you guys my final thoughts on the unit. When it comes to Seed's overall value as a unit, I would say they're worth pulling for if you are a player that is in need of electric DPS, you're pretty well invested into attack units and attack style comps, which means you have stunners and supports built that benefits attack units, and if you enjoy Seed's gameplay and or if you think Seed gameplay looks fun to you. I say this because Seed is a unit that requires you to love the attack class more than almost any other role in the game. The idea behind their game plan and team compositions are centered around primarily using attackers, which means the only way to use Seed at their full potential, you have to have at least one other attack unit that you're willing to invest into. This is a level of commitment that I don't think any other unit requires, making them a hard sell for most players in my opinion, but one that has a nice payoff if you do. Seed is without a doubt going to be one of our strongest attack units in the game, and they will potentially have some of the greatest longevity in comparison to most units due to their ability to deal so much damage while offering insane levels of support for a specific niche. So because of this, I believe Seed is only worth the pulls if you're invested into attack or if you plan to invest into them in the near future. If not, there are ways to pulls for you that I believe can be used better elsewhere, and that's kind of the general idea of this patch as a whole, but we'll talk more about that in a future video. All in all, Seed is an amazing unit that I think some of you will love and others not so much. They provide such a unique gameplay feel and play style that I think is going to be hard to please everyone, but I think it was a great attempt at the devs trying to offer something new that the attack class hasn't seen before. I hope more units like this are designed in the future that further expand team compositions for all classes as a whole, because it just makes the game so much more fun, and Seed does exactly that for me personally. But anyways, that's everything that I have to talk about on Seed. Hopefully everything came out clear and was very concise for you guys to understand. Hopefully it gives you a better idea on if you want to pull for Seed and if they're a unit that's for you. It took me a while to get a lot of this compiled together, which is kind of the reason I got this video out late, as well as I kind of got started late with doing a lot of my testing and deep diving on the unit as a whole. But hopefully we'll have more content to come out for Seed as they are going to be launching in the next couple of days, so be on the lookout for that. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Join the Discord if you haven't yet, and always remember to believe in you that believes in yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one.